IG.
And welcome in episode number 12 of the Grind on Sports. I'm Wayne Kaiser alongside my sidekick right here, Mr. Ben Metz. Running solo today. Last couple of weeks, we've, that's the thing with schedules, Ben, is you schedule people, you have some things line up, and then really life happens. And in our world, or at least in my thought, life comes first. Podcast comes second. So, when people can't make the cut or can't make the timeline, we're gonna reschedule and just make it happen, and that's what we're doing here tonight. Talk a little Tennessee baseball. I think the last few weeks, maybe this season, Tennessee fans chirping around a little bit that this ain't what we had a year ago. This isn't the team that we thought we had. All those different. Really, chirping's probably a good way to put it, but really, Ben and I, we work together, we podcast together, we hobby together, and so we've had a lot of good time to talk about what this Tennessee team has that really you have to be successful, and what maybe they're not using at the moment, and then really how this team's different. A lot of things have changed in a year. Graduation will do that to you, and then ultimately, what's the maybe the spark that this team needs to get it right. I titled this one From the Cheap Seats because it doesn't get much cheaper than this couch. But then also, how can the Tennessee team get on track? I think if you're a true Tennessee fan, you haven't given up on this team because there's just a ton of talent on it. But Ben, there's some work to be done. But how you doing, man? Like the mix, got the Tennessee hat, the Rebel shirt.
Yeah, I got the creamsicle going. I like the traditional orange that you got on there.
That's on purpose, and you'll hear about that in a minute.
I like that styling and profiling. Of course, I'm repping my Rebs here.
Now that is Maryville, not Ole Miss, correct?
Maryville Rebs, that's correct. And I've got a cup here that one of my good buddies got me. I'm not going to mention any names, but he's a good friend of mine. I do podcasts with him on a regular basis. But yeah, I'm doing good. And this is a Tennessee team that they're following up a team that hit 158 home runs last year, Wayne. Just an incredible baseball team, arguably one of the best baseball teams ever to come through the University of Tennessee. So you always joke around in the sporting world, hey, I never want to be the guy that follows Nick Saban. I never want to be the guy who follows Michael Jordan on the basketball court. So very similar in this case. This is a team that has some pretty big shoes to fill.
Oh, I think absolutely. This is a team that has some really highly touted recruits. But I mean, it's just like in college football. And I'm not trying to talk down to anybody that's watching this. You know the score probably better than I. But when you get a 5-star recruit, yeah, you've got a good foundation, you've got a good base, but it's still going to be their first game in college football. It's still going to be for Maui Ahuna. He's a big kid. He's a guy that's done it at a good rate in a lot of ways. But it was his first time in the SEC. It's his first time, big time college baseball. And you've got guys like Blake Burke who really got a good run at it. DHing here and there, playing a little first when games were out of hand. But it wasn't his baby. It was Luke Lipsius' his baby. And really, when you talk about Luke Lipsius, those are big shoes to fill too. An aerospace engineering major, brilliant guy in a lot of ways. And you're having to fill that shoe. He knew first base better than his glove, better than the back of his hand. And so Blake Burke's got big shoes to fill. The outfield, the loss of Beck and Gilbert. I mean, I don't know that you can measure that from a performance standpoint, but from a leadership standpoint. And then, nothing to that, but this is just a different team. And I think you can speak probably better than I can, but baseball is a comfort thing. It's a feel thing. And when you don't feel it, it's hard to get it.
Yeah, I'm gonna use one of my favorite foods during the summertime, Wayne, to explain what we're doing well right now and what we haven't been doing well, and that's pasta salad. It's not the pasta salad that has like the mayonnaise in it, and it's got like the cucumbers and the chives in it. It's the pasta salad with the Italian dressing and the green peppers and the red peppers and the seasoning and different colored noodles. That pasta salad, because there's so many different ingredients, and you have to mix everything perfectly together to get the right tasting rainbow pasta salad. Okay, so stick with me. Okay, so we won the game the other night, 14-2 against Eastern Kentucky. Okay, we had a great final game against Florida. There, we ruled Florida. We used the same lineup. So Tony Vitello talked about. We're trying as coaches to figure out what's the lineup or what's the mix that works best for this team. And the lineup that we were using in the LSU game, you had Ahuna, you had Dreiling, I hope I pronounced that right. You had Moore, Dickey, and Burke, and then you had Dickey behind the plate. The last two ball games, they've gone with Dickey as the leadoff, Moore number 2, Burke's in that 3 hole. You got Merritt cleaning them up, and then you got Stark who's behind the plate catching. So I think he's found a lineup the last couple ball games that can generate some offense at the top of the lineup. And one other big change he's made is he's playing Logan Chambers in the 9 hole, and Logan Chambers he's really come on at the bottom part of the lineup and attributing to a lot of runs, whereas typically they've had Christian Scott down there. And Christian Scott, he's hit into a lot of double play balls. So I think he's made some changes to the lineup. It's working. So this type of pasta salad is going to go real well with hot dogs down in Arkansas, buddy.
With hot dogs, I will tell you, if you're a pasta salad guy, it's things you learn in live action that you didn't know. You're going to have to try my mom's pasta salad from a small town in Newport. It is world renowned. There's people that come to the Kaiser place and bring their own to-go bowls because they know what they're getting. Just saying. Like may or may not have some in the fridge right
like
now.
The mecca of pasta salad. Is that what you're saying?
We've got the goods is all I can say. But so you were talking about the lineup, and it made me kind of pull up the 2022 lineup, and literally this article's called "The Toughest Lineup in Baseball." It was Christian Moore at the top, Ortega 2, Beck 3, Gilbert cleanup, Lipscomb in the 5 spot, Lipsius in the 6, Russell 6, Blake Burke 7, Cortland Lawson 8, and Blade Tidwell, the pitcher at this point, in the 9 hole. That's murderer's row. I don't know. The only person that you could probably pitch around or maybe do something with is Blade Tidwell. Cortland Lawson had double-digit home runs. So when you have 8 out of your 9 guys that can hit a home run on any given swing, it's hard to work with. This lineup's a little bit more you can pitch around some guys. I think that is that's kind of a given here. This is what we're seeing this year. You're seeing Ahuna, Christian Moore, Blake Burke, Jared Dickey, Dylan Dreiling, Hunter Ensley, Zane Denton, Christian Scott, Charlie Taylor, Chase Burns. Again, when he pitches, whoever the pitcher is typically that 9 hole. But what you're saying is maybe they're trying to sprinkle in some hits to where you can't have 3 up, 3 down innings with this team. You're going to have to deal with a base runner. You're going to have to play a little fielding. And I think that's another thing this team has got to evolve into is making teams stretch a little bit. We talk about bump plays. Ben and I, we had a clinic on why, I can't lay down a bunt. I'm pretty sure I can pitch it back into the catcher's mitt, but bump plays, talking about that. This team doesn't lay down a whole lot of bunts. They don't stress teams enough to make a play. In a team that has talent, has youth, and really Tennessee baseball, I feel like has a good bit of speed. they don't stress teams a whole lot on that side of the ball. So I think Tennessee is there's a lot of things that's gone into it. I think there's speculation. If you read message boards, you can create all kinds of podcasts just off message boards. But I think this team's struggling to find their identity. I don't know that I look up. Last year, it was world without end, amen, Jordan Becker or Drew Gilbert's team every single night. Luke Lipsius was the holder downer at first base, and the pitchers kind of held their own. They were a stable of horses, right?
Right.
But this year, I don't know. I don't know that I would give anybody that leader title. Would you? I mean, I don't. I think everybody wants it to be Ahuna. I think everybody wants it to be Blake Burke. But I don't think it's either one of them. I think Blake struggles sometimes at first base. I think that makes people a little perturbed with him, just frankly. And then I don't know that Ahuna really has settled into any level of groove to where we could depend on him.
And look at Christian Moore and how he played in the Florida series this weekend. I mean, he kind of appeared to be the leader of the dugout in a couple instances in the final game on Saturday. So, he's another one. So, yeah, I think you're right. I don't think anybody has really stood out as the leader of this ball club. And Tony's just kind of sitting back and waiting for that to happen.
So talk about Tony. You really kind of, that's the next Band-Aid we got to rip off is Tony Vitello is noticeably different with this team than he was a year ago. Now, Tony's a player's guy. I mean, I think in a lot of ways he goes as players go. Maybe they're struggling and he's getting a little tight. I don't know that he doesn't have a lot of options up his sleeve. I think this weekend against Arkansas is going to be a huge. It's going to be a huge take as to. I think he's going to empty the cup is what I'm trying to say. Every stop will be pulled out for him to try to get this series win in Arkansas. But last year, the confidence, I don't think he ever had to set the bar for confidence in 2022. I think Beck, Gilbert, Lipsius, and the crew said, this is how Tennessee's going to bring it to the field every night. This is what we're going to do so that people either hate our obnoxiousness or are scared of us. I mean, I think that was the two things. They didn't mind being hated, and they knew teams were scared of them. Those are two coins, two feathers in your hat that when you walk to the plate, you like to have those things with you. This team doesn't have that. I don't know that the team walks to the plate and attacks pitchers the way last year's team kind of played ball. So I think that's a little bit of it, but Tony's noticeably different. I think, again, you look at message boards, you look at tea leaves. There's some stories out there as to why he's a little less aggressive or a little less vocal in certain situations. But I think he's forcing this team to create an identity. I think he understands that he can be the leader. He can be the cheerleader. He can be the Uroš Plavšić of the Tennessee baseball team. But I think he also wants somebody to raise up. We talk about it in football a lot of times. There's a lot of good quarterbacks or there's a lot of good pieces on the puzzle, and the coach just says, I need one of y'all to take control of this thing. I need somebody to rise up and be the leader of this team. And I don't know if that's the approach we're getting or if Tony legitimately, feels like, I don't know that me getting aggressive will help this team.
Yeah, and just getting the speculation out there that I have, I'm gonna claim it, is that he was suspended at the very beginning of the season, and it wasn't a one-game suspension. He was suspended for the series by the athletic department at the University of Tennessee. And I think if you're in a job or you're in a coaching position and you have the confidence of your leadership behind you, that's going to allow you to act in your work environment confidently. You're going to have confidence in what you do at work. You're probably going to do things that won't necessarily get you into trouble at work, but you may act more cavalier in situations. And I think that because of that disciplinary action that happened at the beginning of the season, again, this is just strictly my speculation. I think about myself. If I got in a situation like that, I may tone it down naturally rather than continue to act so cavalier in my job or to be so outgoing. But, in Tony's defense, I think he's waiting for this team, and this is something to get the fan base excited. I think that the run rule against Florida in the third game, the runs we scored with this same lineup against Eastern Kentucky, really, really poses well going down to Arkansas. So really, when you look at the matchup on paper, we're two very similar teams, us and Arkansas. I think both teams have almost the exact number of doubles. If not, we have two more, maybe 58 to their 56. So these are two teams that are almost identical on paper.
Well, and I wonder, we've been so used to the last couple of years, especially with the COVID giving us 6-year seniors and such. Tony didn't have to be the what am I trying to say? The mature one. He didn't have to be, he didn't have to be, because there were guys that were dudes, as the Kansas State basketball coach said in the NCAA. We had dudes. We had guys that could get it done. So I wonder if Tony's not just trying to be the adult here. I know that's maybe not been his MO, but maybe he's just trying to be that kind of steadying force. Let Frank Anderson walk out there and give the scowl to the home plate umpire, but he'll hold down the fort. But no, I think you look at this team, I think they're poised to make a good run. We've talked off air, and I'll say it right here. Who else was having these questionable conversations a year ago? Ole Miss.
Yeah.
Miss. And they went on to win the World Series, College World Series. Now, I'm not putting that out there. I do think this is a team that has a regional berth, whether we host or not. Will be how these later series work out. But to me, this is a team that has all the bones. And in college baseball, there's a lot of teams that don't have any bones. Eastern Kentucky came here, and outside of just a couple jacks, we pretty much shut them down and put that to bed early. Florida Sunday, Florida, the last game of the series, we were able to take care of business there quick. And it was Tennessee of old. We were in control. We were playing ball. We got guys on base and then hit them in. It's a pretty simple concept. But, at the end of the day, Tennessee's got to get right at the right time. And I think, on a huge stage there in Fayetteville, this weekend could be that stage. If they win this series, all is forgiven. All is right with the ship. I think a huge piece to getting there, I think we're going to kind of give it two keys to success for this Tennessee baseball team. Number one, I don't think against this Arkansas team you can stand to give up 2 or 3 runs in the first inning. No. That's what these the pitchers, Dolander's done that quite a bit. Burns has done that quite a bit. Honestly, Beam's been the bright spot of the pitching staff. But I think we've got to be able to be multiple in the pitching staff. I don't think I keep going back to that super regional against Notre Dame. They didn't play around. You got a couple guys on, they change pitchers, and I think we've got to be as multiple as we can be, and I think our pitching staff's deep enough to do that. So that's number one. Pitchers can't give up, get us behind by 2 or 3 runs against this team. They're too good. We can't catch up. And then number two, I think you got to attack at the plate. I think that's against Arkansas this weekend, but it's against every single team you're going to see from now on. Is don't go to the plate expecting to walk back to the dugout in a few minutes. Expect to be on first base. Expect to be trotting around. Look at that pitcher, because you're a D1 baseball player too, and take him. Work him. Even if it's an out. If it's advancing the runner, that's fine. If it's making him throw 12 pitches to get you out, that's fine. But the problem is we can't have a lot of 3-pitch. Go sit down. Like that just can't happen. So I think good pitching. Solid pitching, and if nothing else, just getting us off to a good 2-3 inning start for our guys to hopefully warm up at the plate. And then secondly, just every time you look at that pitcher, just expect to hit the baseball.
Yeah, you hit some really good points there, Wayne. I think when Vitello put this lineup together, just starting with that before I get into the pitching rotation, but when he put this lineup together the last 2 days that has worked, it wasn't rocket science. He put the top 3 hitters at the top of the lineup, the top statistical leaders. You've got, your leadoff hitter, Jared Dickey, 314, Christian Moore, 320, Blake Burke, 333. So all of a sudden, that's working. You're getting RBIs and you're getting them in mass quantities. So I think you continue with that. I talked about Logan Chambers. It's very interesting the Logan Chambers and the Christian Scott change in the lineup. Logan Chambers is batting in the bottom of the lineup. That's such an important position because oftentimes in the lineup you'll get to that. It'll be a 9-1-2 in the order. So Logan Chambers really kind of acts as a leadoff hitter. Now, in Christian Scott's defense, in previous lineups, he bats higher in the lineup, but he's had 11 strikeouts, and in those 50 at bats he's hit into 3 double plays. Where you look at Chambers, he's had only 5 strikeouts, and he's had 8 runs. So this is a guy that gets on base, whether it be through walks or whatever have you, finds his way, like you said. The name of the game: get on base, advance, and then knock the runner in. So that I think we've got something working with this lineup. Okay, now getting into pitching, you hit it there. Burns, I'm going to give you a stat here. He's given up in 40 hits. He's given up 8 homers, 15 doubles, and 1 triple. 24 of the 40 hits have been for extra bases. So that tells me that these hitters are getting up to the plate and they are foaming at the mouth because you know what they're looking for? Dead red heat, buddy. And when they get it, they're going to hit it, and they're going to hit it for extra bases, and it's going to cost us. When you look at Beam's had only 11 earned runs hit against him, a 252 earned run average. So I look for in this series, and I hope to see it as a fan, is to see Beam pitch in the first game, and that's where you want to win. You want to get a lead in the series, so you get with Beam. I would be inclined to keep Burns on day 2, hope to get a second win in the series, but if not, you got Dollander to clean it up on the 3rd day. I think the problem with Dollander is compared to last year, and the color guy and the play-by-play call guy talked a lot about how he looked different in the Florida game versus the LSU game, is that in the first inning, Dollander's using more off speed than he is the fastball. He needs to use that high fastball to get out of the inning. That needs to be his strikeout pitch, but he's got to get that finesse going with his curveball or with his slider, like Kirby Connell does and like Camden Sewell does, 2 pitchers who on this team have not given up any home runs. That's because they're more finesse with their off speed, and they catch you on the high fastball to get out of the inning.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Obviously you got to win 2 of the 3. So whether that's Friday and Saturday or Saturday and Sunday or Friday and Sunday, you've got to win 2 of those ball games. But I always feel like when you're on the road, it's the old Johnny Majors quote: attack, attack, attack. If you win game 1 in Fayetteville, they may not sleep until Saturday's game time, and then you've got them on their heels. So to me, we'll see how much of a leash Tony Vitello has, because something about those Razorbacks get him torqued up, and we'll see if he unleashes a little bit against the Razorbacks there in Fayetteville. He's been there before as an assistant coach, and I think this may be his first return trip, if I'm not mistaken, since he's been at Tennessee, or at least when it's been meaningful baseball. Maybe he went his first year or so, but to me, Tennessee's right where they need to be. They've got the pieces that they need. They've been able to kind of fend off some sweeps. Only 1 sweep on the season. Won a couple Sunday games, which is not always what you want to hope for or hang your hat on. But I think it's what keeps you alive. You've beaten the number 1 team in the country. You've beaten Florida, the number 3 team in the country. Now, if you can knock off another top 5, top 10 team in Arkansas, then all's right in the world. So. Yeah. I don't think Tennessee baseball's far off.
Yeah, and one thing that I think you brought up at the very beginning of the show that I think is important for our listeners is the difference between Lipsius and Blake Burke at first base. Okay, last year Lipsius had the whole season had 4 errors at first base. Blake Burke has 8 of the 26 errors. Okay. 26 errors in comparison to the 49 that we had with our team last year is not terrible. Okay. Lipscomb and Cortland Lawson on that side of the infield, they made a number of errors. You probably got those stats in front of you with Lipscomb, but if you look at Lipscomb's numbers and the errors that he made at third base, very similar to maybe Maui Ahuna, who's got 4 right now. But to have 8 errors at first base already in the season, double what Luke Lipsius does at first base last year, that's something that has to be cleaned up. And I assure you that the coaching staff is working on that. But that is a position where he has to be comfortable with where Christian Moore is playing. He has to understand his range. He has to understand his covering the bag on bunt coverages. But I look for that to improve. That's a very important piece as we progress in the season.
Well, and I think, it's a on-job training, Ben. A lot of these players, because of the horses that were in front of them, didn't get a ton of work. So I think Dickey's trying to get in where he fits in. He's the new age Evan Russell, trying to play in a lot of different positions just to have playing time to show later on this year. But if anything is good for this baseball team, hopefully it's a level of consistency, and they've had the same lineup for 2 games, 2 big wins, honestly 2 run rule wins. So hopefully that speaks to what can happen in Fayetteville. I'm not calling it, but I'm calling it. I think Tennessee goes to Fayetteville. I think they win Friday. I think Arkansas gets Saturday, and then I think we've got a Sunday game that we better be on a couch somewhere because it's going to be worth watching.
Yeah, I think if we can go with what I would like to see, I'd like to see Beam pitch in game 1. If Beam pitches in game 1 and we use the same lineup, we're going to be tough to beat. We've proven it the last couple of nights. And like David Ross said about the 2016 Cubs and the 2017 Cubs, I think this is very comparable, is the 2016 Cubs and the 2017 Cubs were the exact same team. 2016, they win a world championship. 2017, they're one of the worst teams in baseball. David Ross was asked what the difference was. He said Dexter Fowler. Dexter Fowler was traded to the St. Louis Cardinals. We lost our leadoff hitter, and the lineup wasn't the same. I think Tony Vitello has found the lineup, and I think if he makes a change with the pitching, I think we have a shot. But I think that goes hand in hand with our bullpen too, Wayne. We've seen these guys, the Zender Sechrist and the Halverson, just giving up multiple home runs, and they have the most innings pitched. I want to see some more Andrew Lindsay. I want to see some more Camden Sewell, and I want to see more Kirby O'Connell. Those are guys not giving up home runs, and they're maximizing their innings.
Yeah, you got to see more of the stash. But I will say his size and Burke's size bunting down the first baseline is pretty much death. Because I don't know that either one of them can get to it.
Be rough.
But you know what? You just strike them out, and you ain't got to worry about them getting to first base. How about that?
That's right.
But I think you've heard a lot of things. If you've watched it, if you made it to this point, you've heard a lot of things that can clean up what's ailing Tennessee baseball. Again, a very good team, still a nationally ranked team. So it's not oh, woe is me, throw the baby out with the bathwater. But it is a situation to where we're not what we were a year ago. But in a lot of ways, it's going to be hard to repeat that team. So, Ben, I think if anybody was close to a ledge, we've hopefully backed them off of it here. But ultimately, let's find us a couch somewhere, find us a bar room somewhere, and catch Tennessee and Arkansas this weekend and try to right the ship.
Let's grind on, buddy.
Absolutely. Well, you know what? If you've liked today, you'll like other shows. Check us out on our YouTube channel, The Grind on Sports. You'll see a lot of cool videos that we've been able to meet with people, talk about their history, talk about their sport. This one's a little bit of a different thing. It's just me and Ben hashing it out. But we're going to do a lot more of this. Try to get weekly content out is a little tougher than we would hope it would be. But you know what? We've got a lot of cool guys. NFL quarterback coming up here in a couple of weeks. We've got a former Tennessee basketball player here in a couple of weeks. So if you like what you're seeing, hit that subscribe button, like us on Facebook or Twitter. And of course, as I always say, grind on.